Listen, I gotta be honest here. Not every album on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time is actually very good. And I should know, I'm listening through the entire list, and some of them just kind of suck. So here I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on the albums that I just didn't like from the first 50 albums on the list, numbers 500 through 451. But before I get started, just a couple caveats. First, I'm not a professional music reviewer. I do this for fun. I love doing it. I love music. I love listening and reacting to music. But these are not objective assessments of the value of these albums, just what I think of them. And second, I score every album that I listen to on this list on a scale of 1 to 5. And here I'm going to tell you about the albums that I've either rated a 1 or a 2 out of all the albums on the list from 500 through 451. A 2 means it's just not for me. I didn't hate it, but I have no interest in listening to it again. And from the first 50, I have 6 of these. But a 1 means, what the hell was that? How is this even considered good? And I have 2 of those to tell you about. But okay, let's get started with the 2s first. All right, first up, we're starting right at the very top of the list with number 500. This is Arcade Fire's album Funeral, and indie rock is just not for me. Again, this is a 2. This means it's just not for me. I didn't really care for it. This album kind of became the basis of a lot of music that I just didn't like in the later aughts and the 2000s. That just kind of indie rock thing, the melodramatic, stomp clap rhythm, sing songy stuff. It just, there's so little variation to this album. The rhythms are very basic. The drums, I think, are what kills it for me. They were just boring. They were just boring. I will say the arrangements, the instrumentation on this album are really good. It was really well produced. It's reasonably well written for what it is. There's kind of a lot to listen to, which I appreciate, and that probably prevented me from giving this a 1, but every song on this album felt like it could have been a car commercial, and it just wasn't for me. So that's a 2. After that, we only jumped down 2 spots to number 498, which is this band's album. I don't know if I should say that. I don't know how that works on YouTube right now. I don't know. So I'm not going to say it. But look it up if you can't tell what that says. This album was just weird. And I'm cool with weird, but this isn't the kind of weird that I'd like to listen to. It was droning, it was aimless and repetitive, and I just didn't get it. I didn't get into it. I didn't like it. I like music that pushes forms and pushes the conventions, but this had no form. There was just nothing to it. In particular, if you really want to check this album out, check out the song Frankie Teardrop. That song is just, it's crazy. It's just crazy. There's even a Frankie Teardrop challenge. The song's 10 minutes long, and it just kind of devolves into this manic, screeching, panic attack in a song. And the Frankie Teardrop challenge is to put on headphones and turn on this song and go for a walk at night in the creepiest setting you can find, in the woods, through a cemetery, by yourself, and see if you can make it through the entire song without ripping the headphones or the earbuds out and running away. This song is wild. The album definitely didn't do anything for me, and is another 2. Okay, this one is going to probably get some hate, but Boyz II Men's album 2. I really wanted to like this. I had this album when I was a kid, and I remember listening to it, and now listening back to it, I wonder, I had this album when I was 10 years old. I have a 10-year-old son now, and I'm just thinking, who the hell lets a 10-year-old kid listen to this album? Because this album is just sexy. I'm glad we didn't have Google when I was a kid, because I probably would be looking up, what does I'll Make Love to You mean? This album, I wanted to like it because I have memories of it. I have fond memories of it, but it's just not the album that I remember. I think what it comes down to for me is that the singles on this album are great. There are some great songs on this album, but every great song on this album was released as a single, and the rest of it was just it was just not exciting, not fun, just not for me. So another 2. And then the very next album after that Boys to Men album is 494, which is Presenting the Fabulous Ronettes by the Ronettes. And I don't feel like I was fair to this album. I think if I went back and listened to this again, I could probably bump it up to like a 2.5 or 3. But I'm not going to, because this whole thing is so subjective, right? And it's very mood based, and I'm just gonna stick with my initial score. I think if I were gonna go and start re-listening to everything and changing my scores around, I would be doing that with pretty much every album, because depending on how I approach it in that moment, it might be better or worse. But I gave this album a 2, and I'm gonna stick with it. And the thing that it came down to for me is that I'm a 40-year-old married guy with 2 kids in 2025, and I'm not a lovesick 16-year-old girl in 1964. There was enough to listen to here. It was fine. Being produced by Phil Spector made it interesting to listen to the early attempts at the wall of sound and that sort of thing. And it was fine. Thinking back on it now, it was fine. But I'm going to stick with my 2, because this just wasn't for me. After that, I had a pretty big jump, about 20 albums down to 474 to find the next album that I gave a 2, which is Big Star's album #1 Record, which, if you ask me, is a very presumptuous title. I mean, again, I didn't hate it. This album, though, just felt like an album of filler. Like, nothing stuck out. Nothing was interesting. Nothing really grabbed my attention. It felt like it was just, they were all filler songs. There was no structure to it that really had me interested or excited. The one big thing about this album for me is that the original version of the song that would become the theme song for That 70s Show is on this album. But even that was kind of a boring song and had to be covered and made more exciting to be on that show. So this one, I've heard a lot of pushback. People absolutely love this album. I don't. It's a 2. All right, there's one more here with a ranking of 2 before I get to my 1s, and I already know that people are going to hate me for this, because I've gotten a lot of hate for this already. It's number 461 on the list, and it's Bon Iver's album For Emma, Forever Ago. And I mean, it's fine, I guess. I did go with a 2 and not a 1. I didn't hate it, but I definitely won't be going out of my way to listen to this again, unless I'm like super depressed and want to wallow in self-pity. Musically, it's fine. It's slow and a little boring, but it's layered and subtle, which is okay. I can appreciate that for what it is, but overall, no thanks. Okay, so we've got 2 albums left, and these last 2 albums are albums that I gave a 1. These albums just, these are albums that I will go out of my way to not listen to again. But I will say that these 2 albums really cemented the fact for me that this list is called the 500 greatest albums of all time, and not the 500 best albums of all time. And I think there's a bit of a difference between calling something one of the greatest albums and calling something one of the best albums. These 2 albums I don't think are good. I don't like them at all, but I can see how they might be considered one of the greatest or some of the greatest albums of all time, because they are important. They're influential. They helped shape a genre or move music in a new direction. And for that, they're important and maybe considered great. But listening to them on their own, they're not good. So the first was at number 487, which was the album Damaged by Black Flag. I hope to never hear this again. This was just an onslaught of noise in my ears. The lyrics were juvenile and dumb, and it was just, there was nothing to it. There was nothing redeeming about this album. This is somebody's favorite album. I know it is. I've been told by people that this is their favorite album. To me, though, this just, no, this was not a good album. And the final album from the first 50 albums on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time that I just did not like, and I didn't like it to the point that I hope to never hear it again, and I gave it a 1, is number 473, Barrio Fino by Daddy Yankee. This is another one that I know I'm wrong about this. My opinion on this album is wrong. People love this album, and that's cool. I think this sound became a big thing, and this album influenced a lot of people. We probably wouldn't have Bad Bunny without Daddy Yankee. I don't really care for Bad Bunny either, though. So whatever. I hated this album. I'm happy for the people that like it. I did not. It's very similar to the Black Flag album for me in that it's just an assault on my ears. It's repetitive. It's just banging in my head, and no, no thanks. So there it is. Out of the first 50 albums on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, those are the 8 that I just did not like. And I'm sure that you're going to quibble with me on those, and you're more than welcome to. Let me know in the comments how wrong I am in my opinion of these, because I know I am. But I just didn't like them. On the other hand, there were 10 that I gave either a 4 or a 5. And so next week, I'll be back with that list. But until then, I'm Kyle, and I've got some music to listen to.